That's the part of?
Okay, no, that's what the discriminant is. It is a part of the quadratic formula. Hopefully you recognize that. And what it allows us to do is to determine the number of solutions or zeros of the quadratic. Now keep in mind, it's still the same deal. This is still if ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's where the a, b, and c come from. Okay. So there are three things that could happen. It could be a positive number. It could be a negative number. What do you think the other one is? What's a number that's not positive or negative? That would be the square root of a negative number, 0. Okay. So 3 different parts. So here's the first part, part 1. If I just ask you not for the solutions, but just to tell me how many solutions the quadratic has, don't go through the whole quadratic formula. Just check b squared minus 4 times a times c. And if it is greater than 0, that's another way of writing what? Greater than 0 means what kind of number? Positive. So if you need to write next to that, that means it's positive. So if b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0 or positive, there are going to be 2 solutions. All right, I hope that makes sense when we go through quadratic formula, because when you take the square root and you get a positive number, that's the part, don't we do plus that number and minus that number? And that's where those 2 solutions come in. So the second part is number 2. If the discriminant b squared minus 4 times a times c equals 0, what would happen if I added 0 to a number and then subtracted 0 to the number? So let's say I had 5 plus 0. What is that? 5. What's 5 minus 0? 5. Don't you get the same answer then? So if this happens, there's only going to be one solution because you get the same number each time. One real solution. Okay. Then the last thing that can happen is what happened in our opener today. If you find that when you take b squared minus 4 times a times c and it is less than 0, that's another way of saying it's what kind of number? Negative. So if you need to write negative under there because this confuses you, it's negative. That means there are no real solutions. Now furthermore, because we talked about this earlier on, that means that the solutions would be imaginary. But there are no real solutions or x-intercepts. Now, you might think, well, why would I do that extra step? It's actually less work. Because if you do this first, if you do this part first, and you find that there's no solution, then why bother doing the rest of the quadratic formula? Does that make sense? Then you can stop right there. Let's say you find it's positive, then you're halfway done with the quadratic formula because you just found the b squared minus 4ac. Then you put it under the square root and do the whole thing. But today what we're going to do is just check and see if things have solutions, okay? And so we're not going to actually find them. We're going to just say yes or no or how many. So let's try the first one. We're going to use the discriminant. The discriminant is just b squared minus 4ac. That's what that is when I ask for that. And we're going to check and see what kind of number we get. So let's make sure there's a 0 here, right? So a is 2, b is 4, c is -7. So I'm going to plug it in just so you see where I'm getting this from. b squared minus 4ac. That's 4 squared minus 4 times 2 times -7. Would you do that for me if you haven't already? What do you get? This is 72. So now I check. Is that greater than 0, equal to 0, or less than 0? Okay, positive, right? How many solutions is this quadratic going to have then? 2 real solutions. But you have to show me your discriminant to back it up or justify your answer. Okay. So let's try number 1. What do I have to do with number 1 first? Add the 3x. Good. So we got x squared. What should I write next? Plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. If I need to put 1 there, I can put 1 there. So you understand what you wrote down, like if you look at this later. Now I'm going to find just the b squared minus 4ac. Three squared minus 4 times 1 times 2. And I get what? 1. That doesn't mean one solution. I check now. Is it positive, 0, or negative? Okay, so this is positive. That means there are 2 real solutions. Okay, this one is already done for us. I'm going to put a 1 there. So I'm going to check b squared minus 4ac. It's negative 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times 25. Now be careful that when you square that negative 10, you put it in parentheses. I can already tell, let's see, 100, and I know 4 times 25 is also 100, right? What's 100 minus 100? 0. Obviously 0 equals 0, right? How many solutions is this going to have? Would you guys do the last one for me, please? I'll do it up here while you're doing it at your seat. This is also already equal to 0. Is that what you got? Since that is less than 0, there are no real solutions.